Welcome to the advanced editing tutorial. So today we're going to go through some of the advanced editing options within a page. But before we do that, I want to make a note that many of these options should be used sparingly and only in situations where we need some custom formatting or changes. So to begin, we're going to look at lists. Like many of these elements we're going to go into, we can find options that are available by simply right-clicking on the thing that we're interested in changing. So I'm looking at a bulleted list, and it's a standard list with circles. But if I want advanced options, if I right-click on this list, there appears a bulleted list properties option. When I click on that, a new dialog pops up to give us some options of what the list is going to look like. So I'm going to suppose I want squares instead of circles. Now I see that the list has changed. So that gives us some options there. Now we also have the ability to change links. So we don't have a lot of links on this page, so I am going to create one here using the Linkit module, which we're all familiar with. And I'm just putting in a random link to a particular course, but I want to change this link to a button. In order to do that, I click on this button, or excuse me, I click on this link, and over here in styles, we will see that certain inlines, certain styles will show up. I want to turn this into button, so I am going to choose button. This is now a button. So that's how you change a link into a button. This is primarily used for ordering or major information on a page and should not be used for every link on an individual page. We're also going to now switch over and talk about tables. Over here is the table option. And again, tables should be used sparingly because they make it difficult for a page to respond to mobile devices. And it makes it difficult to see on mobile devices, especially with tables with many columns. But in some situations, we need tables and we need a few rows and a few column tables. So in order to create one, I'm going to click on that, and it's going to give me the options on row, column, header, and all options that we're used to seeing with creating HTML tables. And I'm just going to, for today, select the default option. And here we have a table, and I'm going to just put information into the table. So now we have our basic table layout. But in order to style this out any further, we follow the same procedure by right-clicking on a particular area. And from here we see we can insert a column, insert a column after, row, insert a row before. We can go back to the same table properties that we were at and make chat modifications there. And so I'm going to do this in row, and I'm going to insert a row after there. So that's how I would add a new row. The column procedure would do the same process. Now, if I click on this table, by clicking on that lower left here, it makes the table expand, goes to the full size of the page. And if I go right click on this and go to the table properties, I will see my right click here and go to table properties. We will see is what I did is I made the table width nothing and the table height nothing. And this is what we recommend in most cases because that doesn't force the table to be a certain width and height. It allows it to grow and shrink alongside your page. So if at all possible, that is the best situation. Another thing we can do is if I click on one of the tables so that it's highlighted, oftentimes one of these little white dots, and I check these styles, I have some options on the type of table I want. So I'm going to click maroon table. Now the table is set to maroon table. Now it's set to line table. And now it's set to no lines. Now when I click away, the table doesn't look very different, but we will show you that it does have a different style. So by clicking on this table, on the black lines or the border of it, or any of these white dots on the corners, we will see the style that we have chosen. So in order to complete the styling, I'm going to save this page and we will see what it looks like. So now we have the maroon table. This is the maroon table style. Alternating row colors, headers at the top, and information. We also see the link button that we created. So now I'm going to go back and edit and change the table style. I'm going to click on the table and I'm also going to reduce the table size. Again, I don't recommend this unless for some reason you need to. Sometimes it's a little hard to get to these resize buttons. But if so, you can always right click on the table and get yourself into the table properties and changing the width here. So now I also want to click on the table, on the lines, borders of it, and switch it back to a different option. By selecting the option that I had before, I unselect that option. And now when I click on the table here, we see that no style is selected. So this is going to be the default table style. I click Save here. Now we see a alternating color table. We have a few other options as well. Those being line table, no lines table. So that's the basics of table. We also have the option in rare and situations that arise to change the styles in line of a particular item in a paragraph. We do not recommend this use unless for some specific reasons in order for consistency's sake. But if you need to, for a particular reason, make text within an area stand out, and obviously you wouldn't do that within a paragraph, you would be able to check a style here to say, I want a medium black. That'll change the text in one particular area to a medium black heading style. Here I'm going to do medium maroon. Now if I click on here, we see that medium maroon is selected. Here we see medium black. And so while it doesn't always show up while you're editing, you'll be able to see the style as it's represented in the top. Now if I click Save, you can see that the medium black and the medium maroon text is now visible. So the next item we're going to talk about is anchors. What are anchors? Anchors are a way to allow us to link to content further in the page, not in another particular page. So in order to do that, I'm going to say I want a link to the more information for additional information. What I would do is I would stick a anchor right here. I'm going to give it a name and call it more. So this will be my link to this particular information. And now we see an anchor tag icon show up. Now we need to have a link on the page to that. So in order to create a link for that, I would highlight the item. And instead of using the link in module, we use the link module over here. I click link, and in the top drop down, I select link to anchor text. And here we get a couple options. The options we're interested in is select an anchor by anchor name. And now we see the anchor we just created. And I'm going to select more. Now we have an anchor a link to the anchor on the page. And I will show you how that will now work. So now we have this anchor I just created. If I click on it, it brings me down to the more information. So this is really helpful with long documents. Alongside that information, we also have spell checker. If I turn this on, you'll notice it begins to underline my document, particular points. So that's a nice feature. I'm not sure really it's an advanced feature, but nonetheless it's one that helps you. Thank you, and that will conclude the advanced editing tutorial.